Hello everyone, we're here in Barrett Ministries studio and we're just going through another series with our passing through. I have in the studio with me a lady named, oh I'm sorry I'm not supposed to say lady, she's told me not to say lady. Her name is Mrs. Alison Welby, she's a good friend of ours obviously, and she's got a wonderful testimony to give. She's written 2 books, Impenetrable and Kill Me a Little Bit More. On the back she's written some blurb and it says, what do you do when you're married but you can't have sex? In this candid account of her first 7 years of her marriage, Alison Welby describes the heartache of returning from her honeymoon still a virgin. In the following years, she and her husband Mike struggled to live with vaginismus, trying to come to terms with why the God of love they thought they knew would allow this to happen to them. No one is exempt from pain and hurt. This is a book to encourage you in your walk with God. And I want to talk about it because I know that many people suffer. And in this series, we want you to know that God is there to help you in all your difficulties. That's why we give testimonies. So Alison, I want you to tell me first of all when you became a Christian.
Sure. I was 10.
Right.
And we'd started going to church because my mum and my dad wanted to get my brother and myself into Christian school, church school rather, C of E church school in Blackburn. So we started to go to church just down the road from where we lived.
Right.
And they were organising a trip to go and see Billy Graham at Anfield in Liverpool. And somebody must have babysat us, probably my grandma. My mum and dad went on this coach trip to Anfield and never said much about it really when they got back. And it was about 6 months later that my brother and I had noticed that there was a difference in my parents. So we hadn't talked about it with each other, but we'd both independently gone to probably mum and said, you know, what's going on? So my mum had told us that they'd become Christians at Anfield because of the message that they'd heard from Billy Graham. And she gave me a tract called Journey into Life. So I went away and I read this tract. That's all she did. You know, people could accuse us of, because we were children, of just being led by our parents. But she just gave me this tract and said, you know. So I'd been brought up, like many people, to think that I was a Christian. And I thought I was a Christian. And
This was before you were 10?
Yeah, this is before I was 10.
Yeah.
So I read this tract and I thought, oh, I'm not, am I? It says that I'm not a Christian unless I've got Jesus living in my heart. So I said the prayer at the end because I didn't want to go to hell.
Right.
So I said this prayer at the end and I gave my heart to Jesus, but I forgot to tell my mum about it for about 2 weeks after. And then I went to her and I said, oh, Mum, did I tell you I'd become a Christian? So she's leaping around the kitchen going, woohoo. So yeah, that was it. That's how I became a Christian. And my brother had done the same or very similar. I don't know whether Mum were giving him the same tract, but he became a Christian about the same time.
Right.
So yeah, so we're all Christians at the same time, which is quite rare, I think, for a whole family.
Lovely.
Yeah, in the same
Lovely
year.
That. Yeah. So then you went off to university when you grew up, yeah?
Yeah.
Where did you meet Mike?
I met Mike down in Hampshire. So I'd finished my university degree and I'd worked in Liverpool for a year. Then I'd gone back to university in Birmingham for 2 years and studied housing and become a housing professional. Applied for loads of jobs up north, nothing, but I got a job down in Eastleigh, and I didn't actually know where Eastleigh was until the night before my interview. I thought it was in London, but then as I was booking the train tickets, I realised it was in Hampshire. So I'd done my homework and prepared for this job interview. So I moved down to Eastleigh and was working for a housing association down there, and I was attending a church in Southampton for a couple of years, but it wasn't the right place for me. I was really unhappy and I wasn't being very looked after, which was a shame. So I went looking for somewhere else to go and ended up at a church in Winchester. And as I walked through the doors of this church, I started sobbing because I felt the Spirit of God there. Yeah. Wow. And I just thought, I've come home. That's how I felt. I felt like I'd come home. So it was the place that God wanted me to be.
Obviously, yeah.
And after a few weeks of being there, I was steered towards a house group that met in Eastleigh. So off I trundled. I'm not afraid of meeting new people. I'm quite outgoing and friendly. So off I trundled by myself to this house group and plonked myself down next to this unassuming, very quiet guy, and was chatting away to him over biscuits and coffee, and most of the evening we were chatting. And I could tell he was older than me, so I just assumed...
So what is the age difference?
There's 12 years between us. Okay. Not that you'd know it. Most people would, meeting us, would probably go, is he 12 years younger than you? Because it's... honestly, men, they just don't grow up, do they? So I could tell he was older than me, and because of that, I just assumed that he had a wife and kids at home. Right, he's bound to be married. He's got a wife and kids at home.
So obviously you were even more relaxed, yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. I was really chilled out. I was completely myself. Yeah. But then, as the evening went on, I could see people watching us, and I thought, maybe he's not married. And I took a little glance at his finger, and there was no ring there, and I thought, oh, maybe he's not married. Of course, you don't like to ask, do you? No. So I thought, why are people looking? And obviously I didn't know how quiet he is normally, but we were chatting together so freely and openly, and I felt so relaxed, and he obviously felt really, really relaxed. So that evening when I got home, I prayed and I said, look, Lord, I really like him. If he's free, can I have him? So that's how I met Mike at this house group. And the funny thing was, the house was on Kipling Road, which is a house where his grandparents had lived. Oh. The road where his grandparents lived, it wasn't the same house, but so it was quite funny.
Amazing.
Go around in so.
So, how long were you engaged for before you got married?
It was quite quick. It was a bit of a whirlwind romance. Yeah. I think we got engaged about February, March time, and we were married in September.
Right, okay.
So it was quite quick.
Yeah. So what led up to your marriage? You were just telling me something before that I didn't even know about.
Yeah, it was quite funny, really.
You being this fine Christian.
I know. It was very godly and God-led, seriously. Well, Mike had already proposed once to me, but Mike's quite quiet and reserved. And so I'd kind of deferred an answer. I'd said, I'm not going to say no to you, I just don't want to say yes yet. So ask me again in a little while. So in the meantime, he said, look, I'd really like to go on holiday with you. So we booked this holiday and together, and we were going to be in separate rooms, but of course the world doesn't see that, do they? No. So my mum rang me up, my good old mum. She rang me up and she said, I'm not terribly happy about you going away with this man. She said, I know you're not going to do anything. It's not that I don't trust you or I don't trust Mike. Of course I trust you both. But it's how it looks to the world, and you need to think about that. What would we do without godly parents? I know. And a good relationship, so you can say stuff like that, and you're not going to go
and I hope
fly
everybody
off
out there is listening to this. This is really good advice.
So I prayed about it and I spoke to Mike about it, and we kind of left it for a little while. I think Mike was waiting for me to say, I'm ready for you to propose to me again. So one evening we were sitting on the sofa and I said, so what about it then? And he said, so you want to get married? And I was like, yeah, why not? And that was it. That was our proposal. So we both sat there a bit shell-shocked and went and got a cup of tea, because we were both a bit shell-shocked that we'd just got engaged.
Right.
But it was because of what my mum had said. So we were married a few days before that holiday was due to start.
Lovely.
So that's why we timed it for then.
Lovely. But it didn't go as you planned, did it? I mean, this holiday was meant to be a lovely honeymoon. And how did you feel when you came back, Alison?
I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And heartbroken and crushed and confused and all those things and much, much more. I spent a lot of the honeymoon crying my eyes out because we weren't able to come together as man and wife. And the irony was, a lot of my friends at that time were non-Christians because I worked, and there was a lot of people that I knew weren't Christians. And they'd been joking with me before I'd got married because they knew I was a virgin.
Right.
And they said, well, you need to sleep together before you get married because you need to know that you're compatible and you might as well have sex now because after you get married, you never have sex. It's a bit of a joke, isn't it? You don't have sex after you get married. But, I just told them off for being ridiculous and ignored them. But their words were ringing in my ears my whole honeymoon because that first time that we couldn't join together, we laughed it off. And then the second time, and then the third time, and then we got back home and we'd not managed to come together as man and wife the whole honeymoon. It was just, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And then the weeks went on, and I'm saying to God, what are you doing? I trust you. I know that I married the right man, and I've kept myself for this moment, and it's not happening. What are you doing? Why are you doing this to me?
So, the fact that you couldn't come together, you're saying it was your fault?
I blamed myself entirely. Yeah. Mike didn't. He said, this is our problem. He was amazing, because a lot of men would have just gone, well, forget it then, and annulled the marriage, But he didn't criticise me, he didn't get angry, he didn't get frustrated, or if he probably did get frustrated, but not at me, and certainly not when I was around, because it wouldn't have helped. It would have just made me feel worse. He knew I was blaming myself.
Do you think you were losing faith in God at this time?
Easy. How do you measure that? How do you measure your level of faith?
Because we've all got an idea of what God is, when we become Christians.
I don't think I ever started to lose my faith in God so much as lose my confidence in my own relation. In my own relationship with Him. And obviously, I was doing something wrong. That's what I thought. Obviously, I was doing something wrong. Obviously, I was not being punished, but He was trying to show me something, and I just didn't understand. And that because I couldn't hear Him, I didn't know what was going on. And so, I think it damaged my confidence in our relationship as father and daughter.
Right. But you see, your book says, this is the final paragraph of the blurb on the back of the book. It says, Alison currently lives, this was a few years ago when she wrote the book, Alison currently lives in Preston, Lancashire, with her husband Mike, and their 3 children, Emma, Nathaniel and Rebecca. But you couldn't come together, so how did you start a family?
Okay, so let me explain a little bit about vaginismus, because we haven't talked about that yet, have we? Okay. So vaginismus is basically a muscle spasm in your girly bits, which stops penetration. It can either stop it or make it very, very difficult and painful. In our instance, it actually stopped it. We couldn't join together at all because of this involuntary muscle spasm. It's not something you can control. It's just a physical reaction. Whether it's a mental problem, I don't know, but it is a physical reaction. And I had an operation to move what they called abnormal tissue area, because I thought, well, that might be causing me pain and that might be what the problem is. But that didn't help at all. That wasn't the problem. So we tried artificial insemination in the end. And I felt bad about that, actually, because I felt like I was taking matters into my own hands. Because I thought, if God's allowing this to happen, then maybe I should trust in Him for a solution. And a godly lady at the church we were going to at the time challenged me about that and said, maybe this is the solution. God's not treating you as though you're sick. And if there's a solution that you can use, try it. So I thought, well, okay, I will. So we went and got a syringe. It's not got a needle. It's just like a medicine syringe that you take medicines with. And we got a yoghurt pot. Mike did what he needed to do into the yoghurt pot, and I used this syringe to inject the produce, as you were. And that's how I conceived. It took us 2 attempts, but the second time I conceived with Emma.
Wonderful.
I know.
Wow. So how did you feel then, having a child?
I was over the moon, absolutely over the moon. I've got this lovely photograph of my mum, which I can't show you because she'll kill me. But she just looks, and my brother took the photograph of her just as I rang up.
Did your mum know about your problem?
Yeah.
You shared it over?
Yeah. So, when I rang up, she happens to have my brother and my sister-in-law there. So Stephen took a photograph of her reaction, and it was just total overwhelmed. She was completely gleeful. And that's exactly how I felt. I was over the moon. Right. So when I was carrying her, I said to the Lord, I want names for my children. I want you to name them. And I'd already promised him before when I was struggling, if you give me girls, I'll call them Grace and Faith. So Emma's middle name is Faith, and her first name means entire faith. Because I wanted to affirm that over her, but I also wanted to affirm it in me, because that's what it took.
Yeah, because it wasn't the normal route, was it?
Not at all.
No. So what happened with the second child?
I was hoping that by having everything stretched down there, that things would change. So after I recovered from having Emma, we tried again, and there was no change at all. I was absolutely devastated. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it. It shook me again, And meanwhile, a friend, I'm saying a friend, she's actually a family member, but she was a professing Christian and slept with her boyfriend out of marriage and had fallen pregnant. And I'm like, hold on, the sinner's being rewarded with children here, and I've served you and honoured you, Mike served you and honoured you, and we're suffering and struggling, it just seemed so unfair. I couldn't understand it. So we did the same with Nathaniel. We conceived him with a yoghurt pot and a syringe again, and went down that route. And he was massive. He was 9 pounds 5 ounces. He was huge. And I just thought, you know what? If he's not stretched me, then what is going to? You know?
So we were okay after Nathaniel?
Not straight away. Again, it took a long time, because Nathaniel was born in 2007, and we'd been trying to move up north to be near my mum and dad. God had stopped us. But then when Nathaniel was born, we'd tried again, and the house had sold, and Mike had got a job, and we bought a house all in the space of 1 week. So that time was the right time. God wanted us up north. So we came up north, and by that time, my mum and dad had been doing the Sermon on the Mount teaching with Morris at Jason Robinson's house.
Oh, right, yeah.
And we'd gone along once. We'd been up and visited my mum and dad, and we'd gone along to one of the sessions, and we'd come away and gone, oh, he's a nice chap, and we liked what he'd said, but it didn't really impact us at that point. And we didn't really understand how mum and dad had been impacted. They'd come up with some funny ideas. Well, like, what has this bloke and this ministry done to me, mum and dad, that we just didn't understand? And Mike in particular was he was worried. Yeah. He was hanging back. But God had been working on me quietly. And I just thought, I've got to do this man's teaching. And I wasn't prepared to do it without Mike, because I really believe that a wife should submit to a husband. And I wanted him on board. So I prayed about it, and I said, look, Lord, if you want us to do this teaching, if it's not completely deranged teaching that we shouldn't be listening to, then would you change Mike's heart and give us an opening to go? And within a matter of about 2 or 3 weeks that had happened, Mike had come to me and said, I'm quite interested in the Sermon on the Mount teaching. I'm like, really? How funny. Maybe we should, And so we made the phone call that day, and there was a teaching going on. So we joined a group, and we did the Sermon on the Mount teaching. Well, it broke me. It absolutely broke both of us, but I'll speak about myself because I can only really talk from my own experience. It shattered everything that I thought I knew. Completely unpacked all of my little doctrines that I had neatly put away, and showed me what rot they were. And as the teaching progressed, I remember one particular evening driving back, and I can't tell you what that particular teaching was that evening. I just remember how it had impacted me, and what it had said to me was, how dare you presume upon God? How dare you say to God, you've got to work my way. You've got to do things how I think they should be done. And I know that we know that up here, but on that evening it had dropped down here. And I realised that because we got married on those dates, I presumed upon God that everything would go smoothly and that I'd be able to join with my husband that night.
And because you kept all the rules, you were a virgin.
Exactly. And I'd made an assumption. And meanwhile, God is saying, who's Lord here, me or you?
Hard to swallow, isn't it?
Very hard. And I'd realised that all the prayer that I put into praying myself out of the situation, I was praying myself out of God's will. Yeah. He put me there. Yeah. He put me there, and I was trying to pray myself out of his will. So I repented. And I said, look, Lord, I don't understand it. I don't like it. But if this is your will for me, then I'll submit to it. And more than submit, I'll actually embrace it and accept it, because I want to walk in your will. So that was my prayer that night. And I think that brought a release. I think that's what God wanted me to see. I think he needed me to understand who was in charge on a far deeper level than just head knowledge, because it was within a matter of months that Mike and I were finally able to join together. And it was amazing how it happened. We were just messing around, as man and wife do. Yeah. It was New Year's Eve. There was fireworks going off outside. It was really atmospheric. And it happened. We just kind of, I don't know how much detail to give on camera, but we just kind of stopped dead and went, are you? I think we are. Oh, let's carry on then. And that was it. And it was the fact that there was fireworks still going on outside. I thought that was a nice little touch of the Lord. It was very sympathetic background, they call it, don't they?
Yeah, I have noticed though, when God does something in your life that you don't understand, you can accept it with your mind, but underneath you really resent God for it.
I think I did.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't understand it. I don't think I could have verbalised that at the time. Because I didn't want to admit defeat. But now looking back, I think I did resent it. Yeah. I was quite bitter, I think.
Because we know God can do anything if he wants to, so why don't you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's when you start questioning, isn't it? Release God, really.
Yeah.
As well as release yourself.
Yes, yeah. Forgiving him.
Yeah.
Like he's done anything that needs forgiveness.
I know, but we do hold things against God, don't we?
We do.
Resent him. So, it says here that you've got 3 children, but I know for a fact you haven't.
I got 5. Yes. So, Rebecca was born 9 months after that New Year's Eve.
That was lovely.
But actually she came 2 weeks early just to confuse the issue. So I don't think I conceived that night, but it was a nice touch that she was born. So she was born on the 1st of October. It was an exact 9 months after that New Year's Eve. Her name is Secure Grace. Her middle name is Grace, because I promised the Lord, if you remember, if I had girls, I was going to call them Faith and Grace. So Rebecca's middle name is Grace, Secure Grace. All the children's names have meanings. Right. Nathaniel means given of God, and his middle name is Joseph, which is God shall add another. So his name prophesies his little brother, which he is not entirely happy about because his little brother drives him crazy, but that's besides the point. Ben Levi, Ben means son of, and Levi, although it's the priestly nation, it actually means joined. So he's son of our joining, whereas Nathaniel wasn't, because he was conceived using artificial insemination, but Ben Levi is the son of our joining. And then Elizabeth, I'm trying to remember what Elizabeth means. God is our oath.
God is our
oath. Yeah. And her middle name is Rose, which doesn't have any particular meaning, but it's the name that God gave me for her. So God is our oath and Rose. Rose, the Rose of Sharon.
That's a marvellous story, Alison, from being impenetrable
Yeah.
to having 5 children,
Yeah.
2 of your own making,
Yeah.
and 3 God-given naturally. It's absolutely wonderful. And you're saying that because God changed your heart, God did the miracle.
I think it was a spiritual impenetrableness, if you like. I don't know. I think I might have just made up a word there, but I think I might have been spiritually impenetrable as well as physically. I think God was trying to show me that. Because actually, I don't think I could have written my second book had I not been through that experience.
So the second book Alison is referring to is Kill Me a Little Bit More. And it's all about worship, Alison.
It is about true
So tell us
worship.
about this.
Well, God showed me through my experience that my will was getting in his way of his will. That's what he showed me. And I think that was a starting point for him to show me that actually I had to die more. Because Jesus died, there doesn't need to be any more sacrifice. And that's not strictly accurate. Because we have to
say Christians shouldn't suffer at all, aren't they?
Well, yeah. But that's not strictly accurate,
That's
because we have to die to self every day. And actually now I'm quite angry that I've been taught that way, and looking back I can see what a deception that is, because I think that is stopping people from really worshipping God.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because actually that is worship. Dying to self is worship. In the Bible, it never links music with worship. It's always praise. Sing to the Lord your praises. It never says sing to the Lord your worship. It's always praise. So songs and music have nothing to do with worship at all. And we can't, if we weren't really in an attitude of worship, those songs are meaningless anyway, which is why God says, take away from me your clanging cymbals, your noisy bells, the sound of your voices. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It's because their hearts weren't in the right place, because they hadn't completely died to self. They weren't following God's will. They weren't in submission to him. So why would he want to listen to their praises? I can give a better example of that. One of my children, who shall remain nameless, came over to me one morning, gave me a big hug and said, "Oh, I love you, Mum." Which sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, if I tell you that earlier on that morning he'd been screaming in my face and telling me what an idiot I was and not being a very nice person, when he came over and gave me that hug and said those words to me, actually all I wanted to do was push him away and tell him to shut up, because it was empty. It felt empty. It was just words. And I thought, if I feel like that about my own son, then how on earth does God feel about us? When we come in with our songs and, oh, how great is our God, but we've not died to self. And no wonder the church is in such a mess, if I'm honest. We're not seeing half the miracles and things that we should be seeing.
No, and music is the focal point now as well, isn't it?
It is. So
how's your book been received? Have you given it out to people in churches?
I have. Yeah, it's had a mixed response, and it's quite interesting, really. People that have given me feedback haven't understood it on balance, I would say. There's a vast majority of people that have read it and not understood it because they think I'm talking about music, and I'm not. And I'm a bit disappointed because I think they've skip-read it according to their own understanding and not actually try to understand what I'm saying. I've had people come and say, but we like our music. And I've turned around to them and said, I've never said that we shouldn't have music. Well, I like singing to God. I've never said that we shouldn't be singing to God. But what I'm saying is, that's not worship. Don't call it worship, because it's not. It's an outward showing of what's in our hearts, but it's not, the actual act of singing is not worship. So they've just not understood it. It's very difficult to step out from your doctrinal glasses, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Well, thanks, Alison. That's really great. We really do want to help people on this programme that we run, because we know that people have real problems and they have real questions that they don't know the answers to where God's concerned. You can be going through an awful lot of trauma and you don't realise why. You know, not always is it because you've done something wrong. Often God wants to get glory out of your circumstance, as in the case of Alison here. You see, she was impenetrable until she submitted herself to God and she allowed him to kill her a little bit more. And she's still asking that, Lord, kill me a little bit more. To get a real relationship with God, we've got to give ourselves up. That's the only way we can have a true relationship. I hope the testimony has blessed you and encouraged you. And if you would like to get these books, you will be able to get them from our website, www.barrettministries.org.uk. They're also available as Kindles, Kindle downloads, PDFs, various means. Visit our website and we'll give you all the instructions for getting hold of these books. God bless you all.
When I weep in the night over unanswered prayer, my trust hits the dust as I tear out my hair. When I rant and I wail and my fists punch the air, I have not died enough. Kill me a little bit more. When I focus on things of this world and not you, getting pleasure from treasures on earth as I do. When my ego is fed by where, when, how and who, I have not died enough. Kill me a little bit more. When I worship the gifts, forgetting the giver, relying on skill and mere human endeavour, doing it my way and thinking I'm clever, I have not died enough. Kill me a little bit more. Where my lips form words that break your heart, instead of days spent in praise, I make cursing an art. If I could out my tongue, it would be a good start. I have not died enough. Kill me a little bit more. When you have my attention, Lord, finally, and undone, I come to you and fall to my knees. When I feel there is nothing much left of me, I have not died enough. Kill me a little bit more.